Welcome to another episode of 9to5Mac Weekly, where I'll pretty much only come out of hiding if there's new Apple hardware. I am your host, Miles Somerville. Let's dive in. So even in the midst of all this corona craziness, Apple just said screw it and hit the launch button on a new MacBook Air, iPad Pro, new iPad Pro keyboards. So we're going to break everything down that's new and improved with these updates. So for starters, the new iPad Pros, as rumored numerous times on this show, has got shiny new specs in the 11 and 12.9 inch variants. So for starters, we're looking at an A12Z Bionic processor that apparently combines an 8-core CPU and 8-core GPU alongside Apple's Neural Engine. Apple's claiming this is the fastest iPad ever made, and I highly doubt that they're lying about that. Battery life is seeing an improvement with up to 10 hours of battery life, so you can enjoy that 120 Hz buttery smooth experience all day long, and there's 60% faster LTE performance if you're making phone calls or doing any sort of stuff like that with the cellular model. Yeah, I can hear you much better now. The iPad Pros are now featuring a dual lens camera setup, with the first lens being the standard 12 megapixel wide-angle lens, and then a new 10 megapixel ultra-wide-angle lens as seen on the new iPhone 11 and 11 Pros. And in addition to that, they've also updated the microphone system on the iPad Pros, so you've now got super clean audio. And as also previously rumored on the show, the new iPad Pros are featuring some new AR features. The iPad Pros got a new LiDAR scanner that will apparently improve motion capture and people occlusion. So as far as like AR stuff in the iPad Pro, you're going to be able to do much more than what you've ever been able to do on an iPad before. The LiDAR scanner can measure the distance between the iPad and objects at up to 5 meters away at nanosecond speeds, which is honestly mind-blowing. I can already see a ton of applications being put to use for this, like people trying to modify a room, put something up on a wall, maybe even building a house. This is going to have near limitless applications, and I'm honestly excited to see how Apple improves upon that in the future. One of the biggest reveals from Apple's announcements today is the new Magic Keyboard. This honestly looks really sick, and I'm sure Canoopsy is losing his mind right now. The keyboard's got a new floating design with a seemingly very smooth open and shut adjusting mechanism. You can adjust the keyboard up to 130 degrees, which is going to be pretty useful for a lot of different scenarios. And given that there's a new iPadOS 13.4 update, you've now got a trackpad built into this new Magic Keyboard. And the best update to the keyboard, at least to me, is the new addition of the scissor switches with backlighting, which is pretty cool. I did not expect Apple to throw backlighting in an iPad keyboard this soon, but I'm all here for it. This keyboard is going to have a USB-C port right on the hinge so that you can connect your iPad to charge without putting any extra weight on the tablet itself. And this USB-C port is also going to support external devices like storage drives, SSDs, or even external displays. And I can already see how plenty of people are going to take advantage of that. You're just going to have your iPad Pro with your Magic Keyboard, one cable to go hooked up to like an ultra-fine monitor. That's going to be the ultimate like iPad Pro work from home setup. Especially during what's going on right now, I'm sure a lot of people are going to need that. When it comes to the price, nothing's going to change with the new iPad Pros except for what you get for that price. So now the 11-inch version is going to start at the same $799 price, but instead of getting 64 gigabytes of storage to start, you're going to be getting 128 gigabytes of storage to start, which is honestly a very nice addition. Thank you, Apple. And the same goes for the 12.9-inch model. You're going to be getting 128 gigabytes to start for $1,000, and you're still going to be able to get the same other variants as far as a cellular model and a 256, 512, and 1 terabyte storage model. The iPad Pros are going to be able to order today, and you should be arriving at your door sometime next week, likely the 25th. As far as the new Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro, you're going to be looking at $299 for the 11-inch model and then $349 for the 12.9-inch model. Now, while that is a little bit pricey, although I do think it's kind of justified, the good news is that this keyboard is going to be compatible with every Face ID version of the iPad Pro. So if you've got the first or second gen version of the 11-inch or the third or fourth version of the 12.9-inch model, then you'll be good to go, and you won't have to spend another $800 or $1,000 to get an almost completely new iPad Pro experience. We don't have an exact ship date yet, but Apple says the keyboard is going to be available sometime in May, and I'm really excited to see when that drops. Overall, this is probably the most solid iPad Pro update to date, and it's getting closer and closer to becoming a true MacBook replacement. Some of you might already think it is, and I really get where you're coming from, but the simple fact of the matter is that it doesn't have Final Cut Pro, so you're wrong, sorry. Speaking of Mac stuff, Apple has also surprisingly updated the 13-inch MacBook Air, and it's got a bunch of long overdue and well-needed features to this laptop. So firstly, we're going to be getting the new scissor switches that we see on the new 16-inch MacBook Pro. So this means that after Apple updates the 13-inch MacBook Pro, the horrendous butterfly switches will finally be extinct, and I cannot wait for that. In addition to that, the 128GB version of the MacBook Air is kinda finally dead, which I am so happy about. 128GB is painfully hard to deal with. So now the MacBook Air is going to start with 256 gigs of storage, with 512 gigs being the next step up. And you're actually going to be able to spec the MacBook Air up to 2 terabytes of storage, which is pretty interesting. Apple's also updating the CPUs in the MacBook Air to now rock 10th generation Intel Core chips. So the base model is going to start with a dual-core i3 with a 1.2 gigahertz clock speed, with the next step up being a quad-core i5 with a 1 gigahertz clock speed. And then you're going to be able to spec this up to a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core i7, which I don't know why anyone would really do over the i5 because performance is probably going to be more or less the same. But anyway, I think it's really great that Apple's finally starting to catch up as far as internal specs and laptops goes, because, you know, there are plenty of Windows laptops and Windows devices out there that are similarly spec'd for either the same price or much, much cheaper. So it's finally good that Apple's starting to step up to the plate as far as pricing, because, you know, the MacBook Air, as far as its internal specs and the price that it's priced at, has always been kind of overpriced if you just look at it on paper. Obviously, there are other factors that go into that, you know, Apple premium price point, but at least as far as specs, the MacBook Air has always kind of been lackluster. So I'm glad that they're finally starting to level it up a bit, make it a bit more of a performer and something that someone can use for a bit more heavy-duty stuff. So as far as pricing, you're going to be looking at $999 to start for the i3 256 model, and then $1299 to start for the i5 512 model. There's going to be an $899 model discount for those within the education system, and then there's also going to be an 128GB model made exclusively for the education system, priced at $799, which, I mean, 128 gigs sucks, like I said, but I mean, that's not bad. The new MacBook Air is available to order today, and it should be expected to be in stores around sometime next week, although stores are closed right now. At least all the Apple stores are closed because, you know. Overall, I'm really excited for this new MacBook Air. I'm currently rocking the 2018 model, and that's what I've been kind of using for school and the more on-the-go stuff. This is probably going to be something that I try to pick up because I'm definitely in need of some more storage and some more cores. But this is overall a really solid update to the MacBook Air. There's also been a little mini update to the Apple Mac Mini. There isn't any hardware inside, but now the i3 base config for $799 is going to come with 256 gigs of storage as opposed to 128, and then the $1099 i5 model is going to come with 512 gigs of storage as opposed to 256. That's pretty much it. They're just making the Mac Mini a little less overpriced. Although here I am with my i5 256 looking kind of salty. Overall, this is a really solid hardware update for sure. I don't think anyone was really expecting this new MacBook Air, especially me. I thought there was going to be the 14-inch Pro with, you know, integrated graphics card and better processing power, the 16-inch scissor keyboard, all that good stuff. Hopefully that's still coming, but needless to say, I'm pleasantly surprised by the update we've gotten to the MacBook Air. And the iPad Pros look really, really cool. Like I said, it's getting so much closer to becoming a true laptop replacement. I just need Final Cut Pro on iPadOS. Apple, just do it. I know you're working on it. I know you considered it at least. Just give it to us. Please give us Final Cut for iPadOS so I can switch to the iPad Pro. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. You guys sound off in the comments below. Are you guys going to be picking anything up? The new Mac Mini, the new Magic Keyboard, iPad Pro, MacBook Air? Let us know. And of course, stay subscribed to the channel and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, because we're going to have hardware reviews of all of this stuff coming very, very soon as it's available. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.